The dream of the Overwatch League for me has always been completely unrelated to what might happen behind the business of it. If we really want esports to be celebrated, we have to look at other forms of entertainment or sports that are doing things very successfully and borrow from them and be inspired from them and go, look, let's not keep this thing precious to ourselves. It's not the band that I discovered and I'm the only one who's allowed to be into. Let's really, put this on the main stage and have a lot of people start to enjoy this thing because it's awesome and everybody deserves to enjoy it.
Whether it's rallying a cluster of pixels back and forth in Pong, chasing high scores at the arcade in Donkey Kong, or coming together as teams in first-person shooters, for as long as video games have existed, competition has been a central pillar.
Hello.
In recent years, the term esport has become a popular way to refer to organised competitions in games. Players square off in virtual arenas for glory, while onlookers are treated to seeing the most popular games played at the very highest levels. But as an industry, esports is still very much in its infancy. The lion's share of its history is one of grassroots efforts, small communities brought together by their love of a game, a desire to share experiences with like-minded fans, and the drive to prove themselves the best. It's only recently that a formalized industry has formed around these competitions. However, although video games are a $100 billion business, esports is a very small slice of that pie. The viewership of popular events such as League of Legends Worlds, Dota 2's The International, and EVO pale in comparison to those of traditional sports. For that to change, it needs to break out from the confines of a niche form of entertainment targeted at the hardcore enthusiasts and reach a broader audience. For developer Blizzard Entertainment, the global popularity of its team-based shooter Overwatch has created the opportunity to do this. It hopes that, by infusing competitive Overwatch with the thrill of watching a live traditional sports event, it can bring esports to the masses. In this series, we're going to be exploring Blizzard's vision for Overwatch as a spectator sport, looking at how they're establishing Overwatch League as the premier esports organization. Over the next 5 episodes, we'll speak to key figures involved at every level, from the game's director and the league's commissioner, to production staff, team owners, players, and fans, all to get a better understanding of Blizzard's ambitions. Each episode will focus on one of the key pillars that Blizzard has put in place to support its lofty ambitions, and we'll reflect on what the company has achieved so far, as well as what it hopes to achieve in the future.
I'm Nate Nanzer, Commissioner of the Overwatch League. My first day at Blizzard was on Halloween in 2014, and on my second day in the office, my boss called me in and said, hey, check this out. And he played for me the announced trailer for Overwatch. And very early on in my experiences with the game, and I think this was an experience that a lot of us had internally when we were playing the game, was like, this game is really, really good. This game's gonna do very well. People are gonna wanna play this game competitively.
We knew when we were making Overwatch as a game that it was going to be a highly competitive experience. The goal was to make a competitive 6v6 action shooter. That was out of the gate what we set out to do. Now, we told ourselves naively, we're not going to worry about this being an esport just yet. We want it to be a competitive game, but it doesn't necessarily have to be an esport. Within months of having the first playable versions of the game up and running, the team was already playing it so competitively that we resigned ourselves, this is going to be an esport whether we like it or not.
There's so much depth to the game, and there's really something for everybody. If you want to be the guy, you can go play Genji and you can try to carry. If you want to support, you can do that. If you want to tank, you can do that. If you want to do, I don't know, if you want to have a turret and be a very small Swedish man, you can do that.
My baby!
Anybody who has played any first-person shooter can find value in a game like Overwatch, right? Because you already know, there's a familiarity there. You can say, oh, I know what this game is. You got DPS, you have healers, you have tanks. There's a level of comfort there and familiarity.
I think at the core of any competitive experience, there has to be a sense of team play and a sense of competing objectives. And that's what you have in Overwatch. You have two teams who both either want the same thing, like in the example of a control map, they both want to take control of the point, or in our other examples where there's an attack-defend scenario going on, one team has an objective to take something, the other team has the objective of defending it, and it creates an immediate competitive experience. Add to that high level of player skill required and a high level of coordination, and it immediately puts people in sort of a competitive mindset.
The similarities between Overwatch and real-world sports such as football, soccer, and basketball are immediately apparent. A group of players, each fulfilling a specific role to overcome the defenses of an opposing team and achieve an objective. It makes sense then that when it came to thinking about how to present Overwatch as an esport, Blizzard looked to the Premier League, NFL, NHL, and NBA for inspiration.
And so as a part of the work I was doing, sort of came up with an idea that I, at the time, called the Overwatch Premier League. And it was like, hey, let's take a page out of the book from traditional sports and apply that to Overwatch, because this game is sort of perfect for it. It's team-based, 6v6, it's global, it's set on Earth. Like, there was just all these sort of pieces that, in my mind, made a lot of sense to build a sports league for Overwatch that looked like traditional sports.
When we were developing Overwatch, we were really cognizant of professional sport the whole time we were making the game. And we were looking at a lot of other shooters that were out at that time. And in most of those, you cared more about what your personal score was, and you didn't care so much if the team had won or lost. And also taking a real close look at the MOBA phase that we were seeing, games like League of Legends, Dota 2, Heroes of the Storm, we realized that there was this high value in getting the competitive spirit going in the team aspect of it. All of us across the team have our different sports that we're, fans of. We have NFL fans, NHL fans, MLB fans on the team. So as we were creating the game, we talked a lot about the core game design and how we wanted you to feel at the end of a match. One of the most emotional moments for me in my life, and this is, I'm like a little sad and embarrassed to say this, but I grew up as a hockey fan, and I grew up in Los Angeles, and our hometown team is the Los Angeles Kings, and they had never won a Stanley Cup until 2012. And my brother and I, who had grown up together being LA Kings fans and always watching them lose or not make the playoffs, it was so much personal investment that we had in this team that the day that they won the Stanley Cup, my brother and I were both in the stadium. We could only afford seats in the very last row. So I was literally at the last row of the Staples Center, and then watching the moment when they hoisted the cup over their head, it stuck with me for months. Like, it wasn't just like this brief, like, happy moment, like, oh, cool, my team won the game. It changed me when the LA Kings won that Stanley Cup, and that I was there with my brother. And I'd like to think that moments like that can and should be happening to people with esports. It's no different. People just haven't discovered it yet.
In the eyes of Blizzard, emotionally charged moments like these are the key to Overwatch League's success and its adoption as a spectator sport that anyone and everyone can enjoy. In traditional sports, landmark events such as Michael Jordan's iconic leap during the NBA Slam Dunk Contest in 1988, Ali knocking out Foreman during Rumble in the Jungle, or the Miracle on Ice had the power to transcend each sports fan base. The drama involved bridged the gap between hardcore fans and those that, ordinarily, had little to no interest in the sport, making each one a historic touchstone. Competitive gaming has its fair share of similarly iconic moments. Daigo Umehara's jaw-dropping counterattack against Justin Wong at EVO 2004. the Taipei Assassins' unexpected reign of terror at League of Legends Worlds 2012, or the ridiculous series of fountain hooks during the battle between Na'Vi and Tongfu at Dota 2's 2013 International are just a few. But these have become legendary within isolated communities, among people that have intimate understanding of complex game systems and have followed disjointed stories over the course of months, and in some cases, years. Overwatch is played by 40 million people around the world. Its design strikes numerous parallels to traditional team-based sports, making the key moments of drama happening in the midst of the action easier to connect with. This approachability opens the door to watching esports wider than it has ever been before, and the league serves as a place where stories can be cultivated and moments of drama can be showcased on a bigger stage in front of a broader audience. But while Overwatch breaks down many of the barriers other games have faced, Blizzard still has multiple hurdles to overcome relating to public perception of esports and esports athletes before they can truly realize their vision for the league.
Esports is definitely regarded as lesser than traditional sports still. I think here in the States and in Western society, I think you have a lot of people who go, oh, you sit in a chair and you play a video game. That's not a sport, that's ridiculous.
It's kind of a silly debate to me. It's competition, it's entertaining, millions of people want to watch it, who cares what you call it? The vast majority of us are physically incapable of doing what our pro players do. There is actually a physical component. Like when you watch Carpe play Widowmaker, you physically cannot do that.
Ooh, Carpe gets the counter snipe onto Baby Bay. Dak brings him up. Oh, and then Dak goes down. Oh, Carpe
no!
ready. Carpe totally going wild on this Widowmaker right now.
So you can have the debate all night long about is there a physical component? Is it a sport? Is it not a sport? I'm past that debate. It's like how do we just continue to do what we're doing and make it better?
I really feel like I grew up in the generation where for a lot of us, it was not looked upon great that you played games. It was actually something to be slightly embarrassed about. You know, gamers were looked at as, you know, antisocial nerds, and it wasn't heavily embraced. Games were looked at as a toy. You know, if you were playing games as an adult, that was something to be shameful of. And I love that we now live in an era where games are broadly accepted and looked at as a part of popular culture. They're looked at as art, they're looked at as entertainment, they're looked at as an extremely successful business. And I'd like to think that we could get there with esports as well.
We all grew up with video games. That's all we know. But the generation before us didn't. Maybe it's a little bit harder for them to accept. I think for millennials and Gen Z, it's an easy buy-in, you know? This is what we know, this is what we do.
What people often miss about gaming is people think gaming is like this like fleeting hobby. It's like this thing I'm gonna do when I'm a kid and then like I'll grow out of it. But that's not what it is. It's actually like my identity, and it's a part of who I am. Like I spend so much time doing this, playing games. I spend so much time investing in this community, being a part of it. Like it's only natural that I want to see who's the best.
Despite the intent behind the Overwatch League, it's still a gamble for Blizzard. Unlike many other games, it skipped the grassroots phase of cultivating a dedicated esports scene, opting to invest heavily in its vision for a new kind of esports entertainment that's open to everyone. To that end, it has set up an arena for live matches to take place in, courted celebrity investors to buy into permanent team franchises, and rolled out ambitious broadcasting plans. This has all been done with the "if you build it, they will come" mindset. For Blizzard, giving Overwatch fans the means to throw themselves deeper into their passion is a small step toward the bigger dream for the league. But if it is to establish the future of esports entertainment, the real challenge is reaching beyond just those people. In the next episode of this series, we'll be going behind the scenes at the Blizzard Arena and talking with the people charged with taking the fast-paced action of Overwatch and transforming it into a spectator experience with all the grandeur of traditional sports.